$3.5 million for a single car from 1971? You heard that right. The disco decade didn't just give us platform shoes and questionable fashion choices, it also birthed automotive legends that are now worth more than most people's houses. From American muscle that could melt asphalt to European exotics that redefined speed, the 1970s produced machines that have collectors fighting tooth and nail at auctions. Which of these fortune makers would drain your bank account? Let's dive into automotive gold. It's 1979, and Porsche just dropped what enthusiasts would later call the Widowmaker. The 930 Turbo wasn't just a car, it was a barely contained explosion on wheels that cost around $40,000 new, equivalent to about $165,000 today. Fast forward to 2024, and pristine examples are commanding $500,000. Why? Because this was the car that taught an entire generation what turbo lag really meant. The 930's 3.0-liter flat-six engine with its KKK turbocharger produced 260 horsepower, which might sound modest by today's standards, but in 1979, this was supercar territory. The power delivery was absolutely vicious. Nothing, then bam, all 260 horses would kick you in the back like an angry mule. The car's reputation for snapping into sudden oversteer earned it the Widowmaker nickname, and frankly, it was well-deserved. What makes early 930 turbos so valuable isn't just their performance, it's their significance in automotive history. This was Porsche's first production turbocharged 911, the car that established the template for every boosted Porsche that followed. Only 21,589 930 turbos were built between 1975 and 1989, with the early cars being the most coveted. The distinctive whale tail spoiler, flared fenders, and that unmistakable turbo whistle made it instantly recognizable. Celebrity ownership has only added to the mystique. Steve McQueen owned one, as did countless racing drivers who appreciated its raw, unfiltered driving experience. Today, finding a numbers-matching 930 Turbo with original paint and interior is like discovering buried treasure. These cars have appreciated by over 1,000% in the past decade alone, making them not just thrilling to drive, but incredibly smart investments. If the automotive world had a Mount Rushmore, the 1973 Porsche 911 Carrera RS 2.7 would deserve its own monument. Originally priced at around $11,000, roughly $70,000 in today's money, this lightweight legend now commands well over $1 million for pristine examples. But here's the kicker. Porsche only planned to build 500 units to homologate their racing program. They ended up making 1,580 because demand was so insane, and even that wasn't enough. The RS 2.7 was Porsche's no-compromises approach to street-legal racing. They stripped out sound deadening, used thinner glass, fitted lightweight Recaro seats, and even deleted the rear seats to save weight. The result? A car that weighed just 2,370 pounds, lighter than most modern compact cars. The naturally aspirated 2.7-liter flat-six produced 210 horsepower, giving it a power-to-weight ratio that would embarrass many modern supercars. But the magic wasn't just in the numbers, it was in the execution. The RS featured the iconic ducktail spoiler, wider rear fenders, and bold side graphics that screamed race car from a mile away. The suspension was lowered and stiffened, the brakes were beefed up, and every component was optimized for track duty while remaining street legal. This wasn't a grand touring car, it was a barely domesticated race car that happened to have license plates. The RS 2.7's racing pedigree is legendary. It dominated in IMSA, won at Daytona, and established Porsche's reputation as the king of endurance racing. Today, collectors treat these cars like rolling artwork. A 1973 RS 2.7 that sold at auction in 2024 fetched $1.4 million, and experts predict values will continue climbing. Why? Because they represent the pure essence of what a sports car should be: fast, focused, and absolutely intoxicating to drive. The Ferrari Daytona didn't just close out the 1960s, it kicked down the door to the 1970s with the fury of an Italian opera singer hitting a high note. priced at around $20,000 when new, about $140,000 today. The Daytona has evolved into a million-dollar masterpiece that represents everything beautiful and brutal about vintage Ferrari engineering. This wasn't just Maranello's flagship, it was their declaration of war against anyone who dared challenge Italian automotive supremacy. Under that impossibly long hood sat a 4.4-liter V12 engine that produced 352 horsepower, making it the most powerful production Ferrari of its time. But the Daytona wasn't just about straight-line speed, it was about the complete sensory experience. The engine note was pure music, a symphony of mechanical precision that could make grown enthusiasts weep with joy. The car could hit 174 minors, making it one of the fastest production cars in the world when it debuted. The Daytona's design by Pininfarina was controversial when it first appeared. Those pop-up headlights and aggressive nose were a dramatic departure from Ferrari's more curvaceous designs of the 1960s. Critics called it too angular, too aggressive. History proved them spectacularly wrong. Today, the Daytona is considered one of the most beautiful Ferraris ever made, its sharp lines and muscular proportions aging like fine Italian wine. Only 426 Daytonas were built between 1968 and 1973, with the majority being coupes. The convertible Spider versions are even rarer and more valuable, often selling for well over $2 million. Celebrity ownership includes everyone from Sammy Davis Jr. to various members of European royalty. Finding an original, unmolested Daytona today is like discovering a unicorn. They exist, but you'll pay handsomely for the privilege of ownership. 1970 Dodge Charger RT 440 six-pack. The 1970 Dodge Charger RT wasn't just a muscle car, it was American automotive testosterone condensed into 3,400 pounds of steel, chrome, and pure attitude. Originally priced around $3,500, about $26,000 today, a pristine example now commands up to $400,000, especially with the legendary 440 six-pack engine option. This wasn't transportation, this was a declaration that subtlety was for Europeans and fuel economy was for wimps. The 440 six-pack engine was Mopar's answer to the question nobody asked. How much power is too much power? The answer was apparently, there's no such thing. This 7.2-liter V8 featured 3 two-barrel carburetors that would progressively open as you mashed the throttle, eventually gulping fuel like a thirsty elephant and producing 390 horsepower. The sound was apocalyptic, a deep, rumbling bass note that could wake the dead and set off car alarms 3 blocks away. But the six-pack Charger wasn't just about brute force. The RT package included heavy-duty suspension, performance tires, and distinctive visual cues like the iconic bumblebee stripe that wrapped around the rear of the car. The front grille was aggressive enough to intimidate a shark, and the hidden headlights gave it a menacing, predatory look. This was a car that looked fast, standing still, and delivered on every visual promise once you turned the key. Hollywood immortalized the Charger in countless movies, from Bullitt to the Fast and the Furious franchise. But it was the car's real-world performance that made it legendary. Quarter-mile times in the low 13-second range were common, and the top speed was limited more by aerodynamics than horsepower. Today, collectors prize original six-pack cars for their rarity. Only a small percentage of Chargers were built with this engine option, making survivors extremely valuable and increasingly rare. If Batman needed a daily driver in 1973, he would have chosen the BMW 3.0 CSL, originally priced around $15,000, roughly $95,000 today. This German engineering masterpiece now commands up to $800,000 for pristine examples, but calling it just another BMW is like calling Beethoven just another piano player. The CSL, which stood for Coupe Sport Leichtbau Lightweight, was BMW's middle finger to anyone who thought German cars couldn't be exciting. The Batmobile nickname came from the car's outrageous aerodynamic addenda. The giant front air dam, side skirts, and that massive rear wing made it look like it had escaped from a comic book. BMW engineers weren't just showing off. Every piece of bodywork served a purpose, keeping the car glued to the track at high speeds. The weight reduction was equally serious. Aluminum doors, hood, and trunk lid, plus thinner glass and deleted sound deadening brought the curb weight down to just 2,600 pounds. Under the hood, BMW's 3.0-liter inline-six produced 206 horsepower in street trim, but the real magic was in the chassis. The CSL featured racing-derived suspension, limited slip differential, and brakes that could stop the car from illegal speeds without breaking a sweat. The driving experience was pure, unadulterated, and absolutely addictive. This wasn't a car you drove, it was a car you piloted, requiring skill, attention, and respect. Racing success cemented the CSL's legendary status. It dominated European touring car championships, won at Le Mans, and established BMW's reputation as a serious performance brand. Today, the CSL is considered the holy grail of vintage BMWs. Celebrity owners included racing legends like Hans-Joachim Stuck, and finding an original, unmodified example is like discovering automotive archaeology. With values climbing steadily, the CSL represents both incredible driving thrills and solid investment potential. 1975 Lamborghini Countach LP400. The Lamborghini Countach didn't just arrive in 1975. It crash-landed from the future like an alien spacecraft designed by someone who thought subtlety was a dirty word. Originally priced at around $52,000, roughly $280,000 today, early LP400 models now command well over $1 million. But this wasn't just expensive, it was impossibly exotic, outrageously impractical, and absolutely essential to any serious collection of automotive art. The Countach's design by Marcello Gandini at Bertone was so radical that it looked like nothing else on Earth. Those scissor doors weren't just a gimmick, they were necessary because the car was so wide and low that conventional doors would have been impossible to open in tight spaces. The wedge-shaped profile was pure geometry, all sharp angles and dramatic lines that made every other supercar look conservative by comparison. The LP400's 3.9-liter V12 engine produced 375 horsepower, but the real show was the theater of driving it. The engine sat directly behind your head, creating a symphony of mechanical mayhem that was part race car, part jet fighter. The exhaust note was pure Italian passion, aggressive, dramatic, and loud enough to wake sleeping villages. Top speed was claimed to be 196 mph, though few owners ever found roads suitable for such speeds. But the Countach was more than fast. It was transformative. This was the car that defined the modern supercar template, establishing the mid-engine, wedge-shaped formula that everyone else would copy. Poster sales alone probably funded Lamborghini's research and development budget, as every teenager with automotive dreams had a Countach on their bedroom wall. Today, early LP400 models are the most sought after, representing Gandini's pure vision, before later models gained additional bodywork and power, but lost some of the original's purity. Or 1970 Plymouth Cuda AAR, current value $200,000, $500,000. The Plymouth Cuda AAR wasn't born in a boardroom. It was forged in the fires of Trans Am racing competition, where winning on Sunday meant selling on Monday, and Plymouth needed a weapon. Originally priced around $4,500, about $33,000 today, pristine AAR Cudas now command up to $500,000. This wasn't just another muscle car, it was Plymouth's declaration that they could build something as wild and wonderful as anything from Chevrolet or Ford. The AAR designation stood for All-American Racers, Dan Gurney's legendary racing team that campaigned Cudas in the Trans Am series. The street version was essentially a race car with license plates, featuring a 340 cubic inch V8 engine with 3 two-barrel carburetors, producing 290 horsepower. But the real magic was in the chassis, lowered suspension, fat tires, and a functional rear spoiler that actually provided downforce at high speeds. Visually, the AAR was impossible to ignore. The side exit exhaust pipes dumped spent gases just ahead of the rear wheels, creating a sound that was part muscle car, part race car, and completely intoxicating. The distinctive striping, functional hood scoops, and aggressive stance announced its intentions from blocks away. This wasn't a car for wallflowers, it was transportation for people who wanted everyone to know they had arrived. Only 2,624 AAR Cudas were built for 1970. Making survivors relatively rare and extremely desirable. The racing connection adds significant value. These cars were literally homologation specials, built primarily to qualify Plymouth's racing program. Today, collectors prize AAR CUDAs for their combination of rarity, performance, and that indefinable cool factor that can't be manufactured. Finding one with numbers-matching drivetrain and original paint is like winning the collector car lottery. 1979 Porsche 928, current value, $80,000, $200,000. The 1979 Porsche 928 was supposed to kill the 911. Porsche's board looked at emissions regulations, safety standards, and fuel economy requirements, and decided their iconic rear-engine sports car was doomed. The 928 was their replacement, a front-engine, water-cooled Grand Tourer that would carry Porsche into the modern era. Originally priced around $28,000, about $115,000 today, the 928 has evolved into a $200,000 collector's item that represents one of automotive history's most beautiful failures. The 928's 4.5-liter V8 engine was a technological marvel, producing 240 horsepower through sophisticated fuel injection and engineering that made contemporary American V8s look primitive. But the real innovation was the transaxle layout. The transmission was mounted at the rear axle, creating perfect 50-50 weight distribution. The result was handling that could embarrass dedicated sports cars while offering comfort levels that made long-distance cruising a joy. Styled by Wolfgang Moebius, the 928 was gorgeous in a way that transcended automotive design. The long hood, fastback roofline, and integrated bumpers created a timeless elegance that looked modern in 1979 and still looks contemporary today. Pop-up headlights were both functional and dramatic, giving the car an aggressive face that could transition from friendly to menacing with the flip of a switch. The 928's failure in the marketplace wasn't due to any deficiency. It was simply too different for Porsche purists who wanted their sports cars air-cooled and rear-engined. Ironically, this market rejection has made the 928 more valuable today. Collectors now recognize it as one of the finest Grand Tourers ever built, combining supercar performance with luxury car comfort in a package that was decades ahead of its time. Early examples are becoming increasingly collectible as enthusiasts rediscover this overlooked masterpiece. 1976 Aston Martin Lagonda, current value $300,000, $600,000. The 1976 Aston Martin Lagonda looked like it had been designed by aliens who had studied Earth cars through a telescope and decided to improve on the concept. Originally priced at an astronomical $49,000, roughly $250,000 today, the Lagonda now commands up to $600,000 for pristine examples. This wasn't just a luxury sedan, it was a four-door spaceship that redefined what automotive design could be. William Towne's design for the Lagonda was so radical that it looked like nothing else on the road. The wedge-shaped profile, pop-up headlights, and geometric lines created a visual statement that was either brilliant or insane, depending on your perspective. The interior was equally revolutionary, featuring the world's first digital dashboard in a production car, a collection of LED displays and touch-sensitive controls that looked more like a computer terminal than traditional automotive instrumentation. Under the bonnet sat Aston Martin's legendary 5.3-liter V8 engine, producing around 280 horsepower and enough torque to move the massive sedan with surprising authority. But the Lagonda wasn't about acceleration, it was about presence. This was a car for oil sheiks, rock stars, and anyone who wanted to announce that they had arrived from the future. The ride quality was sublime, the interior space was vast, and the exclusivity was absolute. The Lagonda's notorious unreliability, particularly with its revolutionary electronics, initially limited its market appeal. Early cars spent more time in service departments than on roads, earning the model a reputation for temperamental behavior. However, this same complexity has made surviving examples increasingly valuable as collectors recognize the Lagonda as a fascinating piece of automotive history, a glimpse of what luxury cars might have become if technology had been more reliable in the 1970s. May 1978 Ferrari 300A GTS, current value $180,000, $350,000. The 1978 Ferrari 308 GTS didn't just star in Magnum PI. It defined what a mid-engine Ferrari should be for an entire generation. Originally priced around $33,000, roughly $155,000 today, pristine examples now command up to $350,000, making Tom Selleck's choice of transportation one of the smartest automotive investments in television history. This wasn't just a sports car, it was the perfect blend of Italian passion and mid-engine precision. The 308's 2.9-liter V8 engine produced 255 horsepower, but the real magic was in how that power was delivered. The flat-plane crankshaft created a distinctive exhaust note that was pure Ferrari, a high-revving mechanical symphony that could make mundane trips to the grocery store feel like qualifying laps at Monza. The engine's placement directly behind the driver created an intimate connection between pilot and power plant that was both thrilling and slightly terrifying. Pininfarina's styling for the 308 was evolutionary rather than revolutionary, refining the basic wedge shape established by the earlier dyno models. But every line was perfect. The prominent side air intakes, the aggressive front spoiler, and those iconic Ferrari proportions that announced Italian breeding from miles away. The GTS Targa Top added open-air motoring to the equation, though purists always preferred the fixed-roof GTB for its superior structural rigidity. Television fame transformed the 308 from exotic sports car to cultural icon. Magnum PI episodes featuring high-speed chases through Hawaiian scenery sold more Ferraris than any advertising campaign could have managed. Today, collectors specifically seek out 1978 models like Selleck's fictional car, and the Magnum connection adds significant value. The 308 represents the last of the analog Ferraris. No computers, no traction control, just pure mechanical connection between driver and machine in the most beautiful wrapper imaginable. From American muscle monsters to European exotic angels, the 1970s delivered automotive legends that have transformed from transportation into liquid assets. These 10 classics prove that while fashions fade and music changes, truly great cars only become more desirable with time. Which one would you mortgage your house for? Drop your choice in the comments below, smash that subscribe button, and remember, in a world of electric everything, these analog beauties remind us that sometimes older really is better. The future is expensive, but the past, that's priceless.